A powerful winter storm has engulfed major parts of the United States. American coastal areas have received heavy snowfall, storm warnings, weather advisories in place in several parts. Hundreds of flights have been cancelled. Major highways lie shut. Even vaccination has been impacted as several centers have been caught in the storm's path. The first major snowstorm of the region has been dubbed as Storm of the Century. Take a look.
It's really going to get rescheduled in any state-run facility.
And our correspondent Susan Teherani is getting us the latest from New York for more on these developments. Hi, Susan. What are things looking like 24 hours after that winter storm was reported to have struck New York? The entire Northeast is impacted. Flight operations have been disrupted. Tell us more.
That's right, Molly. As you can see, we have some snow still ongoing. It just started right before I came to join you. While most of the storm, as you mentioned, has left New York, a lot of the Northeast, the New England region, like Boston, in the state of Massachusetts, is really feeling the brunt right now. One person has been reported killed due to the storm. There have been flight disruptions, and once again, vaccination sites here in New York and across the Northeast and a lot of other states are closed as well. Authorities and health officials have said that they will reschedule these vaccination appointments. There will be backlogs, however, that's the main concern. But subway services, buses are running on limited service here in New York, and for the most part, people have decided to stay home. Remote learning for a lot of public school students, no school for a lot of private school students, and as for people working remotely from home, they will start again today. As for yesterday, people weren't really working. But, the dining industry here in New York is probably the most hard hit right now. And with this storm, things aren't going to get any better. Indoor dining or outdoor dining continues to be closed.
It's been called the winter storm of the century. Stay with me, Susan. A quick check also on what things are looking like for Donald Trump. Just hours away from Donald Trump's deadline to officially answer the impeachment charges and respond to them. It's not going too well for the former American president. Donald Trump has until noon on Tuesday to reply to a charge of incitement of insurrection at the Capitol on the 6th of January for encouraging the assault on the seat of American democracy. 5 people had lost their lives in this attack. And just ahead of this trial, his 5-person defense team has abruptly quit. The 45th U.S. president has now chosen 2 new lawyers to lead his defense team, David Schoen and Bruce Castor Jr. Donald Trump has hailed them as highly respected trial lawyers. Both Schoen and Castor have backgrounds in criminal law and defense, none in constitutional law, though. WION is a Fox News commentator, has previously represented Trump ally Roger Stone, who was convicted for lying to the Congress in the Russian investigation, but later was pardoned by Donald Trump. He was also in discussions to join the legal team for sex offender Jeffrey Epstein before he allegedly killed himself. In an interview, he called the trial unconstitutional and would not argue the president's claims of voter fraud. Castor, on the other hand, has served as the district attorney for Montgomery County. He had also declined to prosecute U.S. comedian Bill Cosby, who was later accused of drugging and sexually assaulting women. Castor recently said that the strength of the American Constitution is about to be tested like never before in its history. Republicans are bracing for a battle over the party's future, and an evenly divided Senate is not making things any better. In order to convict Trump, at least 17 Republicans will need to vote with all the Democrats when the trial begins. The trial in the Senate is scheduled to begin on the 9th of February. He is the first president in American history to be impeached twice. And this makes it challenging for Donald Trump to find attorneys who are willing to defend him. While it looks like Trump is likely to avoid conviction due to the party support in the Senate, the trial is sure to see battle lines drawn over who controls the party following his defeat. Going back across now to our correspondent Susan Teherani, who's been tracking all those developments. Things are definitely not looking good for Donald Trump. Just a few hours earlier, we have been reporting how his defense team called it quits. The legal defense has been in shambles. Now he does have two new lawyers representing him who, interestingly but not surprisingly, have vowed to go ahead with the allegations of voter fraud.
Yeah, a departure from previous reports that his defense team would argue on voter fraud basis, a claim that the former president had been making for weeks after his defeat to Joe Biden. His new legal defense will not be focusing on that. As you mentioned, they're not experts in the Constitution, and for one reason or the other, they decided to sway away from making the argument of voter fraud. Instead, they will focus on the fact that trying a former president who is not in office is unconstitutional, and that he did not incite violence on January 6th against Capitol Hill. He wasn't the cause for it. In fact, he was practicing his First Amendment rights of free speech. Now, as you mentioned, this is probably going to take some days and some weeks moving forward for the Democrats to try to make a point. They're scheduled for pre-trial hearings as early as today, being Tuesday, and possibly tomorrow. They'll also decide whether or not they want to call witnesses or not. So those are some of the things that we'll be looking out for. But once again, circling back, as you mentioned, it's very unlikely that Donald Trump will be convicted during his second impeachment proceedings because of that two-thirds majority needed in the Senate to move forward. And most Republicans have mentioned that they oppose convicting a former president when he's not in office.
All right, so it's a departure from the earlier stance that his legal team had presented over voter fraud. Leaving it there for the moment. Susan, thanks very much for joining us with those details. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.